And so one of the things that we did was to take these 7 rhythms that are in the Life Group Handbook and just kind of go have a conversation with our group and go through more systematically of how are we incorporating these rhythms into the life of our life group, not just on our Tuesday night meetings, but also in different times of the week or different parts of our life. And so we took 2.5 nights earlier this semester to just kind of talk through those 7 rhythms. And so what we did as part of this process just earlier this semester was to really sit down with our group and be like, okay, what can we actually commit to? Not what do we aspire to, but what can we actually commit to doing in this season? And I think that was helpful because it helped us to be like, okay, this can't just all fall on 1 or 2 people. This can't just all fall on the leaders or the person who had kind of her own volition stepped into more of a leadership role. It was pretty beautiful. Like, our group has come together. I think that there's at least 4 people serving every month, but it's a different 4 people serving every month. And that's kind of helped us distribute the weight of leadership in that, at least in that area. Another thing that it's helped us do is it's helped me as a leader be able to talk more a little bit about the why of these rhythms, things like prayer and service and scripture and storytelling. I think it's one thing to kind of tell people to do them or even to model for people that they should be doing them. But if we're actually discipling people to love, think, and act more like Christ, who then can be discipling other people, I really think that we need to be talking about the why of why are these things important, because otherwise it's pretty hard to, it just kind of becomes another thing on your to-do list unless you really understand how it's forming you as a person and why it's important. And so I think this process has helped me ask for help a little bit more. And then the other thing, kind of where we landed in this process, we're still landing, we don't have it drafted yet, but 2 other people in our group are actually drafting this kind of covenant for our group. I'm not doing it. I'm gonna see it and we'll talk about it before we present it to the group. But that's just another example of delegating authority and delegating leadership, which has been great. But we're gonna kind of land on this covenant that we all physically sign. And it has not been the easiest discussion. There's been definitely some times where there's some tension, there's strongly held opinions that kind of delve into a little bit of arguments, things like that. But I think it's good because it kind of helps us come together as a group and understand where we're all coming from, understand what we're willing to commit to with the group, and just give us something that as we welcome new people and as we kind of remind people who've been coming for a while, what we're committing to, but then also just how we're showing up for people in their lives. So one of the things that's going to be in there is that we've always done smaller prayer groups where we break out at the end of a small group meeting and have these times with prayer, but we realize that there's times that we don't actually know what people's physical needs are. So there's people's prayer needs, but then does somebody need a ride to a doctor's appointment, or does someone need a ride to the airport, or does somebody need help moving, or smaller things if you know that you're gonna have a really busy week and you don't have any time to cook, is there somebody else in the group who has more time that week and can cook? And so how are we actually showing up for the physical needs of the people in our group? So it's just really opened up different kinds of conversations that go beyond the Tuesday night gathering time that we have to really be in each other's lives a little bit more and helping to spur each other on. I think one thing that our group has done periodically, and sometimes better than others, is to, at the end of a term, we just ask questions about what should we stop, start, and keep doing, yes, stop, start, and keep doing. And so that's just a kind of a time where you can get feedback from your group. I do think that like in anything, if people see their feedback being heard, or if they think of themselves as being part of the co-creation of a group, they're a lot more invested in it. I think also these 7 rhythms that are in the handbook for life groups, if your group is like ours, you're probably doing a lot of these rhythms anyway, but I found it really helpful to just have a really explicit conversation about like, okay, these are the rhythms that the church wants us to focus on. We're already doing most of them, but let's just talk about how each of these are showing up in our regular like weekly discussions, and how we want to incorporate them. Do we want to grow in one of these areas? Are there things that we want to stop doing or start doing in any of these? And really, but as you're doing that, kind of just keep talking about like why you're doing it. Really want them to see these as tools that they can use not just in your group, but also in their walk with God individually.